Hi, my name is Torben Jørgensen. I'm working as an information specialist at the Copenhagen University Library. In this lesson, I'll talk about different material types as well as different types of literature. My focus will be research-based scientific literature, as this is the most relevant and used for writing papers at the university. Having generated your search terms and entered them in your logbook, you're now ready to use them in your search for relevant sources of information. Being able to distinguish between the many varieties of materials and literature is important because each type will provide you with specific information useful for particular parts of your assignment. Moreover, your search result will provide different types of materials and literature depending on which database or search engine you use. We use the term material type to describe format. That means books, journal articles, conference proceedings, reports. When we use the term literature type, we refer to content and to the academic level of that content. That means research in a specific field, description of a subject area, discussions, statements, teaching resources. A primer or an educational textbook is an example of a literature type. It's a teaching resource that introduces its readers to a topic by presenting basic knowledge in a fairly condensed form and usually omits analysis of recent research results. Another type of literature concerns methodology and covers literature on how to use different kinds of research methods in your investigations. Usually this will be evident in your curriculum, so we'll just give you these examples: statistical tools, interviews, tests or experiments. Let's take a closer look at the research-based scientific literature. If you can distinguish between these three literature types, popular science, secondary scientific literature, primary scientific literature, it'll possibly help you to improve your search process and facilitate your selection of relevant literature for your assignment. We'll start with popular science literature, which is intended for the non-specialist or layman and therefore describes scientific research in everyday language. You might benefit from the popular science literature if you need to get an overview of a research area and if you need inspiration for search terms for your information searches. However, it's not a good idea to base your assignment on popular science literature alone, as its analyses and surveys will be simplified and generalized. If you don't know much about your research area, another useful approach is to consult secondary scientific literature. Secondary scientific literature or survey literature condensates, interprets and evaluates knowledge, trends and scientific results from primary scientific literature. Secondary scientific literature includes material types such as short articles in reference works, encyclopedia articles that provide definitions and overviews of a given topic, subject-specific reference works, and textbooks. Here you can see two examples of what secondary literature may look like. These two entries on solar cells are from Wikipedia and Encyclopedia Britannica. In these articles, solar cells are also referred to as photovoltaic cell, and as you can see, survey literature may also be used to identify new search terms. If you come across search terms that are relevant for you during your reading, then make a note of these in your logbook so that you remember them when you begin to carry out literature searches in subject-specific databases. When you have become more familiar with the terminology, history and schools within your research topic, you can begin to explore the primary scientific literature, which typically consists of scientific articles, which must be included in your paper. Scientific articles are usually published in peer-reviewed journals and document the original research results achieved by an individual researcher or research groups. The scientific article typically includes a detailed description of how the research was conducted so that techniques or experiments may be reproduced and validated. Moreover, the article will present, analyze, and interpret the research results. A scientific article always includes keywords, references, and a bibliography which you can use for further information seeking. You might have come across scientific articles that have been marked preprint or postprint. A preprint article is an article in manuscript form, that is, before it has undergone peer review and before journal layout has been added. Postprint articles are also articles in manuscript form. Postprints have undergone peer review, but like preprints, they still lack journal layout. Peer-reviewed article means that researchers and other experts in the same subject area as the author have read and gone through the article in a most thorough way. Peer-reviewed is in that way an approval of the content in the article in question. Let's get back to our example with solar cells. It should be clear by now that a scientific article on solar cells will look completely different from an encyclopedia article on the same topic. See, for instance, this review article about solar cells. Strictly speaking, review articles belong to the category of secondary scientific literature, but they are nonetheless published in peer-reviewed journals. Rather than presenting new knowledge, review articles are typically very condensed presentations that outline how trends, research results, and scientific paradigms within a given research field have evolved over a period of time. Since they do not contain original research, review articles lack a materials and methods section. Even if you have been asked to use only primary literature, you may still benefit from review articles to gain valuable background information. Next to scientific journals, conferences constitute the most important form of communication amongst researchers. Researchers meet at conferences to present their latest research, either in the form of oral presentations or posters. Sometimes a researcher will write a formal article about the topic that he or she presented at the conference. These articles are published in so-called proceedings, which may also be peer-reviewed. Proceeding articles are sometimes made available on the conference website or in scientific databases. Many conference presentations are never reworked into articles and published in journals. Instead, the only documentation of the presentation may be a short, condensed abstract. These may also be found on the conference website or in the scientific databases. Regarding technical reports, public authorities, NGOs, and trade associations frequently commission or publish scientific reports. These reports are seldom peer-reviewed, but they may nonetheless be important sources in the process of acquiring knowledge of a given research area. Such reports can usually be found on the internet or in scientific databases. Typically, books offer analyses and interpretations of basic research that has already been published in, for instance, scientific journals, and as such they may be described as secondary scientific literature. More and more books are available online, for instance, through your university catalog. A PhD thesis is a written documentation of the primary research conducted by a scholar who has been awarded a PhD degree. PhD theses are often comprehensive and contain detailed analysis analysis of very specific fields of research. They typically include lengthy methods and material sections, as well as numerous appendices with empirical data. Theses are often available through the catalogs of the university libraries. Thank you for your attention.